get out better because they're just so used to going down, re-registering their car.
Right.
They get a, say they buy a used, ATV. They go down to DMV or call up DMV and then they're like, well, no, that's your job. I just need to come there, and they don't understand. They can't go to.
Right.
So,
And there is some surprised customers, certainly, that it's a Friday, they want to go out riding over the weekend, and they're surprised to find that it's going to take time because they have to do everything through the mail.
And I think, that Commissioner Joe, for the record, I think it's just the frustration, and then we get that voice to us. I think one of the biggest comments is they just don't understand it. And, we try to do what we can do. The problem is we're small, and I actually staffed a person that's all they do for the big store in Reno. And even with that, we have to do it by appointment, and not only frustration sets in, but then they get upset. And, we're just trying to vent that down and try to keep that calm. So, like I say, if there's something that you guys think of any which way that we could get that message just to the base people, we're trying to accommodate the best we can. So.
And for the record, your chairman will take responsibility. I scheduled this meeting for today. It didn't exactly sync up as how they could compile their information from the end of the month. So you didn't get a printed copy of this report, which we will certainly forward on to you today. Secondly, I think we were pretty close from December's meeting as to form of the report that would work. And I think we'll just schedule a meeting with Charlie, Raylene, myself with DMV and just hammer out those small details. So that's on me. So any other discussion?
This is Commissioner Lee.
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
I just wanted to just mention one thing after what Commissioner Giroux said, because I agree. We've had a lot of people that have wanted to walk into DMV, register their ATVs because they were going to go on something that weekend or whatever, and come to find out it's going to take some time. So, and I can't speak for all law enforcement agencies, but what we've been doing, since you really don't, normally, you would probably, you go buy a new vehicle and they issue you a temporary tag. Well, we don't have that, of course. So what I've done is I tell the people, you keep your paperwork with you that's showing that you've submitted for your tag, and that, to me, that's just as good as a temporary. And we let them do what they need to do because they keep that. But I said, keep it with you, showing that you've submitted. I'm not speaking for all law enforcement agencies. I'm just saying, in our county, that's what I've told my people to do. Is that people have their paperwork with them, and they've already submitted to the DMV, then let them do what they need to do because the tag's on its way, probably.
Yes, Denise Engel, for the record. Yes, that's true. And we also advise our customers that call the same thing. If they were wanting a really quick turnaround time, we advise them to keep their paperwork with them.
Great.
Great.
Does that, Commissioner Giroux, because I agree with you, because if somebody comes into your dealership and wants to go buy an ATV and go ride it that weekend, what do? So, if they keep their paperwork with them, to me, that's just good as a temporary.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, we advise them of that. Again, I think it's up to the different law enforcement agencies how they're going to, basically, you have a copy of your, bill of sale, and you can see where we've, done the paperwork process, but we actually don't, like in other situations, they get either temporary or you get a 30-day placard or you get something. We don't have that structure in the off-road. So in other words, it's kind of a, hope they get a pass. They didn't do anything wrong, but, that's a big gray area. And I think the way you're handling it for your county is awesome. And I have not gotten feedback from the customer base where they've been, told they can't operate it until they actually have the sticker. So I think most law enforcement's kind of, looking aside on this. trying to take care of the people that are doing it right, even though the process is still, leaves a little bit to be desired. So hopefully we can, kind of fine tune that for future. And, even if we had just a temporary thing to give them, but I don't know what kind of process that would be, involved in DMV with. It's just another form, which we get kind of formed to death. And obviously that would be something that they would have to, monitor, and so that might create even a bigger, issue. So.
Well, Denise Engel, for the record, I think as the program grows and evolves, I believe that the department, working with the commission, would be open to conversations about growing the process.
Excellent. Any other comments? Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very well. Item number 10, reauthorization of the 2015 Law Enforcement Award to Washoe County Sheriff's Office for different equipment for discussion and possible action. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office has changed its request for funding from a Polaris Razor 1000 4-seater to a Yamaha 6-seater. No change in funding amount has been requested. The Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance recommended approval of the modified request. The Commission will vote whether to approve the recommendation of the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance. So, any discussion?
This is Commissioner Lee.
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
I think it's been recommended by NOCJA to approve this, so I would make a motion to approve it.
Very well.
The change.
Commissioner Lee makes a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, hold on, wait a minute.
Okay.
Or no, should I disclose or no?
In the past year, disclose and indicate why you don't think there's a conflict.
Yeah, I'm setting it now. Though, make the motion.
No, I mean, if you don't have a conflict, you can make the motion, but I think you should disclose.
Okay, so I made my motion also make a disclosure that I'm the sheriff of Lincoln County, and I do not feel that I have a conflict in this, so that's why I made the motion, but I wanted to make sure the public knew that I am in law enforcement. I'm the sheriff of Lincoln County.
And could you explain that your connection or lack of connection to the recipient?
Yeah, and so it's a separate county. Also, it's not changing their dollar amount, so I don't think it changed anything from what has been approved in the past. It's just merely changing what the equipment is, and I'm not affiliated actually with Washoe County.
And does the award to Washoe County have any effect on any award to your department?
It
Could
does
it
not.
have any potential effect?
No, it does not change the funding for the award for my department, or nor will it.
Very well. Thank you for that disclosure and detail.
Commissioner Drew, I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Drew seconds it. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Drew.
Yes, Commissioner Drew.
Commissioner Drew, for the record, I think it's an extremely wise move on their part. They're going from a competition-based machine that I really didn't think would be the proper machine for, the usage. So by them changing it, it is now, in more of a reconnaissance type machine. It just makes so much sense. So, in fact, I was against their pick in the original. I want to make that disclosure. I just didn't think it was the proper thing. Might be a fun thing, but they're not. We're not supplying them fun. We want functionality. So, it definitely.
Commissioner Giroux?
Yes.
I would recommend that you also make a disclosure regarding, any potential conflict and why you don't believe you have one.
Sure. Commissioner Joe, for the record, I am the dealer representative on the board. I don't believe I have any conflict in their process. I don't have anything to do with their purchasing, other than I own dealerships in Northern Nevada. So, but I also own dealerships for the unit that they were previously looking at. So, in other words, it's not taking something that I didn't sell and now it's something that I do sell. So my position hasn't changed on whatever they're looking to purchase. I just wanted to, state the fact that the machine that they changed to is a better machine, and that's all I'm concerned with is what's best for not only the usage, but the people's money's going to a better place in my understanding.
Commissioner Giroux, do you know, do you have any agreement at this point to sell that, that they'll be purchasing this equipment from you? Do you have any information regarding that?
I do not at this point. I do not have any purchase orders or anything on anything currently with Washington County Sheriff's.
All right. Everyone satisfied? Very well. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Very well. Motion passes. Number 11 is, I just put it on there as a housekeeping issue. We had no appeals to our grant awards last month, so you don't have to deal with any of this process, which is fortunate. Number 12,
Appealing is over.
the Treasurer's Report and 2016 budget for discussion and possible action. The Commission's Treasurer report to the Commission's account activity, including income and expenses, current bank balances. The Treasurer will also present a proposed 2016 budget for the Commission. The Commission may vote to approve a 2016 budget. So, Charlie, it's on you. And there's copies of that budget stuff all on the table there if you got one.
All right, Commissioner Cox. So let's start with profit and loss for January. We had no income in January. We had 4 expenses that are listed there. Basically, reimbursements for accounting for the year-ended books, reimbursement for room rents that occurred prior in the year, and travel to Carson City for 2 commissioners. And that all totaled $1,232.42. Is there anything you want to do? Is there any questions on those expenses, or we keep moving on?
Just probably a point of information. Commissioner Lambert will submit a mileage request for his attending of that last meeting, but it will be dealt with in next month's report.
My expenses will also be submitted.
And Rick
Yes.
has informed me her expenses will be submitted as well, which is only fair. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the balance sheet
Okay.
as of January 28th. You can see in the general fund we have $1,748,471.73. We have the commitments listed there for the grants that we had previously approved for law enforcement, making our checkbook balance at the end of January $1,954,905.71. And just a total at the bottom, the liabilities of those law enforcement award is $206,433.98. So
And
that'll change now that the other awards have become finalized. That I'll correct it for next month, but I couldn't do it till the end, for this report.
And just a point of information for everyone, the White Pine County grant award agreement, I just signed it last week. They sent it in like a week ago for their $10,000. I thought maybe they weren't interested and were going to take a pass on it, but I guess they're in. So just a little point of information. It doesn't change your balance sheet, so just a point of information.
Okay, so now the final one, the proposed budget for the coming year. So it has a lot of information on there, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion on because for the numbers for the accounting fees, the salaries, the insurance, the office expense, I think is all going to be a little bit flexible here based on what we hear back from the state and the process we're going to have to go forward to. So I was more interested in coming up with a total of $65,600 for what it's going to cost us to have an executive secretary and basically and room rent and things like that. So I think we should have some discussion there as if that's a realistic figure.
Okay. Any comments from commissioners?
No, the 5%, you can see what was, I was asked down here, what 5% of the total allowed is $87,844.68. And so, maybe as a point of information, I should add some things that have happened since I prepared these reports that's going to affect us, and that is the fact that since the state said that we have to consider our executive secretary as an employee, the IRS has now sent us paperwork that we are delinquent in paying back taxes and withholdings on our past employees going back to 2013. So, what we're going to have to do, what I've been working on, is we have to go back and calculate how much money we owe the IRS for those withholdings of Medicare and Social Security and all of that, which normally is taken out of a check, but since we've already written the checks, we have to compute what the check should have been to then bring it back down to the net amount that we wrote. I've accomplished that for 2015 so that we could get Kim's W-2 out accurately, and for 2015 it cost us right around $3,100 for those back taxes and withholdings. So now as we go back to 14 and 13, it's going to affect our beginning year balances a little bit. And I was talking to Raylene about this, and I'm not sure, just as she walked in for the meeting today, in my business I would go back and adjust all the books for all those years to make the year-end and year beginning balances accurate. The state, however, says that we're to operate on what was in our account as of January 1st. And so I'm going to need some direction whether all these expenses are going to come out of 2016 or if they're going to go back and be corrected in 13 and 14.
The important figure is the law enforcement award.
Uh-huh.
And because you have been accruing and deducting the balance for the 2014 awards in determining the 2015 amount and then also in determining the 2016 amount, I think, although it's probably immaterial, and if it is immaterial, then from an accountant standpoint, probably doesn't matter. But if you've got the information and you can go do that, I mean, it's probably going to make really small percentage difference. But, but he already has it for 2015.
Right. So projecting back, I think it's going to, if it's the $3,100 for 2015, I assume it's going to be roughly $3,100 for 2014. 2013, we only had an employee for the last 2 quarters of the year. So I think it'll be minimal for 2013. But it's going to affect 6. And then probably in the future, the IRS is going to come back and say there's penalties and interest because we never filed those reports on time. So I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to make a $10,000 difference cumulatively split up over those years, which 20% of that is kind of minimal, but it's going to affect these numbers in the future a little bit. So getting back to Sue's question, right now 5% administration is $87,844.68. And when I'm looking at maybe going to cost us $65,600 in operating expenses. So that's what a lot of information right there. So
If I could just add one thing regarding the IRS, it isn't the fact that you've decided to make it a state position or the state is calling it a state position that resulted in the IRS's letter. That was going to happen no matter what. And when it came to the Commission's attention last year regarding the unemployment insurance, at that point in time, they suggested that there would probably be an IRS concern as well. So I just wanted to be clear that it isn't because you've decided to make this person and provide them with state benefits or anything of that sort. It was I think it came about because of the one secretary who had an injury or claimed unemployment.
Claimed unemployment.
Claimed unemployment, and I think that's what, it was just not handled correctly in the beginning.
I thought we hired them as contractors.
But you can't.
And then we found out later on we couldn't.
That's correct.
Well, the problem, yeah, we did hire them as independent subcontractors. Where we ran into a problem is we required them to attend meetings. An independent subcontractor gets their own time. They get to set their own schedule. So even though they could work and have other jobs and do other things, the fact that we required them to attend meetings classified them as an employee.
Interesting.
And another criteria, just the criteria for an independent contractor, the position didn't actually meet those requirements.
So anyway, so getting back to our budget, and I guess I'm looking at Sue and Raylene trying to figure out if $65,600 is a realistic figure.
I'm just wondering why we wouldn't want to allocate the full 5% just to give ourselves that opportunity for whatever else comes up.
If you don't budget for it, you can't spend it.
Yeah.
That is correct. I would agree with that. We don't have to spend it, but you budget for it.
Because even the secretary position, I'm just thinking right now, if the high end of that was just under $30. So if you go 30 times 20 hours a week times 52, that's 31.2. I see. So you've got that maxed out. You've got that with the compensation.
Well, true, and just a point of discussion, Commissioner McKay, is that takes care of the salary, but now that we're going to have benefits, which is PERS and insurance and such, that figure could be, what, 30% higher than what the salary is.
It's usually half of what the salary is. So if your salary's $30,000, your benefits are usually $50,000.
So maybe bump it to 45 to cover the benefits, and we'll call it salaries and benefits.
Well, I think Commissioner Lee had a good point. If we don't budget the full $87,844, then we can't spend over what we budget. So I think we'll just budget the full amount and let that fall where it may within the salary. But see, that's why I put down here the very bottom line. The total of all the categories is $1,840,465.97. At the beginning of the year, we only had $1,756,000 in our account. So we can't budget all these categories full.
Yeah.
So then, which one do you take it at?
Commissioner McKay, for the record, the office expense maybe just needs to be clarified some, that if we get an agreement or execute an agreement for a partnership with state parks, the rent was $300 a month, which is only $3,600. I think we allowed $4,000 for furniture, office equipment. So there's $8,000 right there. And I'm sure there's probably some accounting expense with that partnership once we get a state budget account and all that. So I'm thinking your $24,000 probably can be cut in half in that category. Although if you want to leave it a little fat, I understand, but I didn't think we needed $24,000.
This is Commissioner Baker. I know the other thing is we talked about another round of grants this year, and it was really nice when we were all in the same room. So if you guys were traveling to Vegas, we'd want to have some money for airplane or mileage reimbursement for
Sure.
that trip.
Yeah, this one didn't cost us much, but if 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially a couple other commissioners, yeah, you might want to, I don't know, put $3,000 in there for travel or something.
This is Commissioner Lee.
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
I think dealing with budgets over the past so many years, like I said, I think we should, whatever that cap is, we should budget the entire amount. And we can move. I mean, a budget is simply as what it is. It's a guess. You don't know. But you budget your whole amount and say, you're going through the year and you have more left over in salaries and you need a little bit more services supply. We can move it within that fund. You just can't add to it. You know what I'm saying? You can't add to the. If you only budget $60,000, you have $87,000 that's allotted. You can't go and spend the $87 if you don't budget for it. I said we budget the entire amount. Give us the best guess where we think we should put it. If we come up short a little bit in one place or other, we can move it around inside that fund.
Right.
But we have to budget for it.
Right.
You have to do that.
Right.
And then what's nice with us is, unlike other budgets, what we don't use, that rolls back to the county. This stays with us. So if we don't spend it, it's okay. Because it rolls over into our fund, so it's not going anywhere. So I say we budget the entire $87,000 or whatever it is, wherever you guys think appropriately, but budget the entire amount, and hopefully we don't spend it all.
Commissioner Drew.
Commissioner Dro?
Commissioner Drew, for the record, I totally agree with Commissioner Lee. In fact, in looking at this and the way we appropriate funds for administration, which I totally don't agree with, about using a balance of a starting date money, whether you have it or not, it just seems really backwards. But taking that into consideration, by budgeting the full amount on a year that we have a lot of funds, if we don't use it all, it's still budgeted in administrative or in the administration section. That might give us a little bit of buffer. Say next year we have only $1 million on that certain date, where then you can only take 5% of, which again I don't agree with, but it could put us in a position of being a shortfall and not even being able to cover the money for a secretary. So by having, only because that 5% I think is, a pretty tough number. I don't know a lot of businesses. I know the state can't run with 5% administration budget, but we have to. So anyway, I totally agree with Commissioner Lee. I think it would be smart to budget it all. We don't have to spend it. And like I say, if we have any surplus, it's not like it gets lost. It's just, I think we're pretty good stewards with the, citizens' money. And, we just don't want to be caught in a position where, we'd have to lay off the secretary if we ever get one for a while because we run out of funds because it wasn't allocated. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah, Commissioner McKay, for the record, Commissioner Lambert brought up a good point. We could possibly put a miscellaneous category in there too that gives us a little float as far as what things may actually end up costing. And secondly, we need to put something in there for our lobbyists. They're going to start earlier this year, I think. If we're going to draft our own bill this time around, that'll probably begin to be a mid-year expense, and they were very gracious to charge us about 10% of what they charge a normal customer at $2,500 last session. I'd like to see that we raise that amount to $3,500 in the budget. Any further comments from any other commissioners? Again, Commissioner McKay, since we elaborated on several components that weren't in there, would it be appropriate to bring back a proposed budget reflecting the full account being allowed and some of the categories we didn't account for in this one, and discuss the proposed budget and pass it next meeting? Or do you want to try and go ahead and further discuss this and hammer it out now? What's the
I'd like
pleasure
to
of the
do it at
commission?
the next meeting, because maybe we'll have a little more input of exactly what the executive secretary may cost once we know where in the state we're going to be housed. You know,
Right.
because we still don't know where we're going to be housed, and so the room rent we have with parks at $300 a month might not still be true. So,
Yeah, I think for the record, Commissioner McKay, at least as far as that aspect of it, it was $300 a month, so it would be $3,600 for the year. And I forgot what my other point was, so we'll let that go.
but I'm just saying, if we get housed in a different department other than parks, room rent, I think that's subject to change. So I'd like to see us get some more information and bring it back, and then by then I'm meeting with the accountant again tomorrow. Hopefully we're going to finish up 2013 and 14's IRS stuff. And so at the next meeting I should have a very accurate adjustment of all of these numbers, the beginning year balance and all of that.
Excellent.
So I'd like to table it till next meeting as well.
That sounds good. Just a point of information. Initially, when Sheila did some calculations on an executive secretary, she gave a range from the 1997 to the 2997 for the executive secretary. And with the whole benefit package, which was insurance, PERS, unemployment, etc., it was $49,800 a year. So I can forward you that email, Charlie, that lays that out with the range, if that would help you. So,
That would help.
okay.
Okay?
Yes. Go ahead, Raylene.
Raylene Palmer, for the record. Would somebody speak to the grant award on the Orba off-road
okay.
business? There was an
Yeah.
error in the last meeting,
Right.
Confusion on the matching funds.
Right. In our last meeting, there was some confusion on the amount the commission awarded to the Off-Road Business Association Economic Impact Study. It was listed as $54,000, I think $594. The correct figure was $36,500. The difference being that was the $18,000 match that Orba had in there, not a commitment from the commission. So we'll have to make sure that adjustment is noted and well publicized. Is that adequate statement, Raylene?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we have a member of the public that would like to make a comment on our budget. Welcome. For the record, Larry?
Yeah, Larry Calkins, Nevada Four-Wheel Drive Association. Looking over the budget, I see the carryover from the previous year, being your 2016 beginning unrestricted balance, showing the monies that you have. I just don't understand, because I don't see a projection of income for 2016 on this budget to give you a bottom line for what your proposed budget really is going to be.
This Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
The way the law is written, Larry, we only get to use the money that was in our account January 1st. The income we get during this year is what we spend next year.
I see. Okay.
But not a bad point.
Understand.
I'll give you that.
We've talked about it a bit.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Gotta go in there again.
You can't have everybody excited again.
Sounds like a state thing.
Yes. Very well. Any further comments? Any comments on the phone?
Well, Grant, Greg, I'm sorry, I still have the question, when we total up all these categories, because we have carryover in law enforcement, we can't max out these categories, so I guess I'm looking for suggestions as to where to take out. It's about an $83,000 difference right now, where the commission would like to take that out. Do you want to take that out of construction? The 60% other category, do you want to take a little bit out of the up to 15% safety and education? And obviously law enforcement is mandated, so I'm thinking it has to come out of the other category, but in order to come up with an accurate budget for the next meeting, where we're going to take that overage out of.
Go ahead, Gary. You want to, for the record?
Charlie, Gary Lambert for the record. I think you're right. Others the category we're going to have to use this year. Hopefully we can get a more stable system soon. I would even motion that we take the money out of the other category to make the adjustment.
Well, any discussion on that? Comfort level, practicality?
I think the suggestion is good enough. I think it's just what, since we're going to bring a proposed budget back, we can discuss it in depth at the next meeting, but I was just looking for the commission's wishes.
I'd say it's the best suggestion we've come up with, so
Yeah.
go with it.
So, and like I say, that the unrestricted balance of the $1,756,893 is going to drop a little bit once I pay all the bills for 13 and 14. So we'll work it out.
Chair McKay?
Yes, go ahead, Raylene.
Raylene Palmer. So that other category, because you have to keep each one of those individual categories under other at the 30% of what you actually spend, based on the grant awards that have already been awarded this year, and particularly it was subcategory 5, so it was the construction for trails and facilities. Right now, in that particular category, you're at 45.94% of spending. So the commission has to award another $153,833 this year in order to ensure that that category doesn't exceed the 30% amount that you're allowed to spend pursuant to statute. So there will have to be another grant funding award of at least that amount in other categories.
And that's this fiscal year, not fiscal year. Fiscal year.
Well,
2000, not June 30th.
correct, 2016.
Okay,
Before
December
31st of 2016, the commission must award at least that much more money in grants.
Other than law enforcement grants.
Law enforcement is not a grant process.
Right.
Yes, thanks for that comment, Raylene. Definitely spot on, and hopefully in our March meeting we can clearly delineate that and change to grant guidebook and all that other stuff before we go out for our next round of what categories are eligible and what we have to commit. So, great. Any other comments? All right, Charlie, thank you very much for all your hard work with all the correcting all the past little transgressions and getting a budget and handling all the ambiguities. You've done a fantastic job. So. Thank you. Item number 13, Commissioner briefings. Any commissioner want to update us on information or items? Sue, do you want to talk about Tread Lightly or any other stuff there?
Sure. The Tread Lightly meeting that we attended, Greg was at it as well. It was really great. It was with the BLM, the Forest Service. I can't remember what other agencies were represented, but the regional folks from Tread Lightly were there just to present all the things that they can do to help unite a state and the different entities, the federal, state, local groups together, and the success that they've had in other states in doing that. So it was really nice to see beyond just the marketing campaign what they do take on as a role to help unify everybody and get a collective message and get projects going. So I think it's one of many meetings we're going to have with that group, and it was pretty exciting, the messaging that they have and the success that they've had with just keeping all the different entities together. Greg, why don't you expand on that for me?
For the record, Commissioner McKay, what was interesting is although Tread Lightly as a program has been around for 25 years plus, there's a concerted effort in the western states to promote common messages, participation and funding by several agencies, government and private. And I think it's a good message that needs to be incorporated in part of our message to this state as far as responsible OHV usage. So I think it'll be a good partnership, and when we have our meeting to discuss our message, I think we'll have representation from them too to tell us what resources they have and what's worked in other states. So I think it'll be a good partnership. So, any other commissioner briefings? Yeah, Commissioner Giroux.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record. I had some correspondence with Raylene Palmer with regarding a tax issue, and I just wanted to bring it to the board, maybe something that we can look at for the future. I've had customers, a quick overview, in the industry, if you, let's say, have a car and you trade your car in for another car, when you're buying the new car, you pay tax, but you get a credit for your trade-in. Well, something that has been overlooked, and this is something that we're going to need to have taxation become involved with, is if you take your off-road vehicle, which is now a registered vehicle, and the way I look at it is, by statute, it should be a vehicle, and a vehicle defined in NRS would allow it to, get that tax credit. Well, currently, it's a gray area, and the customers are not getting it. So the public's not getting the credit for their trade-in. And I know it might sound little, but it's a big number. And and I just wanted to see what the commission, would feel like, as far as involving taxation and actually getting them, if we could get the director to give us actual written direction on, how they perceive it. I think that would clarify for the dealers, but I mean, overall, it's for the public, and I think, as a commission body, if you want to get public support, well, you go in and actually show them that we're doing the job for them. I think it would be a big boost, just for our credibility, as well as, when it comes down to it, what's fair is fair. Right now, in my eyes, the people are getting kind of cheated on that. What say you, Raylene?
Yes, do what you thought.
Go ahead, Raylene.
Oh, Ms. Baker just said that you had asked me a question. I'm sorry, Ms.
That's all right.
Lee asked me a question at the same time. I heard what you said right up until whatever your question was.
Oh, he just asked what your opinion was of the tax
I think
issue.
that you could put that on the next agenda if you wanted to for discussion.
Sure. Yeah.
And, yeah.
I think we should make it a priority. We'll put it on our next agenda and move it forward. Any objection?
But is that something that has to change in the law, or is that something that's just administrative?
We don't know.
It probably would be a change in the law, but you could certainly make those inquiries with the state taxation and find out what exactly would be entailed, whether or not you have their support.
Yeah.
Greg, this is Commissioner Cox. We've talked a lot about what we want to see changed in the law, and our lobbyists might start earlier this year. I think we need to start working on items, a list of items that we need to see changed in the law, so we don't forget something as time progresses.
I agree. Commissioner Giroux?
Commissioner Giroux, for the record. And that's where I was trying to allude to the gray area, because the way NRS, proclaims a vehicle, and it's a definition, and now that off-road vehicles are registered, it might not need a change in the law. We need, like I say, the director of taxation to say, oh yeah, they're vehicles, and if they're, because previous to them being registered, an off-road vehicle was not a vehicle in the eyes of the state of Nevada, even though you cross the border to California and it becomes a vehicle. So, but on this side of the border, it's not a vehicle as far as definition.
It wasn't.
So that's kind of, and obviously if, the director of taxation, sees it as gray as well, then it might then preclude us to, lobby it, at the legislative, level. But this might be also just a, if he sees it the way I see it and just gives us, clarification in writing, then it can go out to the dealer bodies, and then, obviously it'd be, savings for the, the public immediately. So just to get a little clarification there, because it's a very unclear,
Well, then I think for our next agenda, we need to have something on there either for you or Greg or Raylene to be able to work with the person from taxation to start the process.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, I agree. And like I say, I got an email from Raylene, and I tried to answer it the best I could without, making it even more cloudy. But, I'm just giving you my, because we deal with it every day, and it really, it's like anything. You read it, you can interpret it two different ways, but when you get into money, you don't want someone to say, "Oh, that sounds right," and then a year later have someone at taxation say, "Well, we don't see it that way, and now we're going to back charge you and penalty and interest." And so that's why you're not going to have the dealers step out on that island unless they have something in writing. So
Excellent. All right. Commissioner McKay, for the record, had quite a few meetings with people this last month. We've been working with state personnel, the budget office, the finance office, the HR office. In conjunction, Charlie sat in on a few meetings with me. Sue sat in with a few meetings with me, kind of related to getting our position formalized, our budget, our checking account, all those issues settled. They're working their way through it. I actually had a call yesterday from Mike Wilden, the governor's chief of staff, and it was in response. Marilyn Kilpatrick placed a call. So he was getting up to speed on what we have done and haven't been able to get done. I think it was a positive conversation when he learned more information and what we've been trying to do. And there's no bad people, but the processes sometimes are pretty lengthy. He is in Vegas today. He was hoping to come and join you guys there, but obviously he's a pretty busy person. But one thing he had promised to get back to me within a couple of days, and he is going to assign a liaison with the governor's office directly to this commission to help us in this process. So we're not the ones playing the phone tag and who does what. It'll be a little bit more top down as far as assistance goes. So I was encouraged by the conversation, and hopefully it will help us in the future. I've also had occasion to visit the state authorities for BLM and the Forest Service, and had some conversations about what their priorities and needs and plans and such are. It's my intention to come back at our next meeting and discuss with the commission some of the problems and opportunities they present, to partner with them with the intention possibly of generating a rough long-term plan for OHV improvements in the state. So it's still a very, very crude bottom floor right now, but I think we'll give a conversation our next meeting and start seeing what your appetite is and if you're liking what we can do for our OHV users in the state, in a partnership with BLM and Forest Service and other agencies. I think that's probably it for now. Any other commissioner briefings? Okay, hearing none, I'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment on the phone?
I would like to make a comment if that's...
Yes, and this is Lisa McAllister.
Yes, Elise McAllister from Moab, Nevada.
Okay.
And thank you very much, first of all, for awarding our restroom proposal funding. We're very excited about that. We've started to tell folks and have been met with applause at the chamber meeting and at the nvohv Valley Town Advisory Board meeting and at Vegas Valley four-wheeler meeting last night. So people are very happy about this. And we wanted to make sure that we emphasize to folks that this is their registration money that's providing this restroom. It's a direct benefit to the users, and I just wanted to let you know we plan on spreading that message far and wide. And then I wanted to also support the partnership that you've developed with the Desert Conservation Program. They had asked me to participate while they were drafting their initial survey for OHV education, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to work together. I also wanted to mention I sit on the Resource Advisory Council for the BLM, and that might be a great place to also do partnership with education and outreach, kind of in the public part of the BLM. There's 3 RACs in the state, and I am positive that all 3 RACs would really like to help the OHV Commission with outreach and education. And then I also wanted to just comment on the Tread Lightly, which I agree wholeheartedly. They have an excellent program. But one of the areas they're a little light in is desert, especially the Southern Nevada desert. They have a lot of wonderful responsible use messages. Sometimes for a more mountainous area, it's those big crossings which we don't really have down here. So I think it's wonderful, but I think there's a place for more specific Nevada education. And then the Arizona OHV Commission, kind of your counterparts in Arizona, they've got an excellent outreach and education program going on for OHV that might be good to check into. And I just wanted to mention that. Finally, at the town board meeting, we did announce about the restroom grant award, but I will make sure that I tell Commissioner Kirkpatrick personally about it. She might not have got the message through the town board minutes, and I will tell her personally about that and invite her to come down and check it out as it progresses, and to make sure that she sees what's happening on the ground down here. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Any public comment in Las Vegas?
No.
Okay, any public comment in Carson? All right. Close the public comment period. Next scheduled meeting, I was floating a date of March 24th, it's a Thursday, March 24th. And we can go back to the legislature building and the Grant Sawyer building then. The conference rooms will be available. And as far as some suggested topics for that meeting, we could do our 2016 Law Awards. Sharice had said they'll be ready with their evaluation and recommendations by then, and they'll be ready to go for that. We could also discuss the changes that Sheila and commissioners suggested in our last grant guidebook, our round 1 there. There's some excellent suggestions to make that a better, easier program. I'd also like to discuss, we're going to do a bill about OHV to discuss the components and priorities of that. Also the taxation issue that Michael brought up, and talk to you a little bit about some potential partnership opportunities with BLM and Forest Service and other agencies. So see if March 24th works on your thing. I'll send out an email to see if that, and also we may potentially have 3 replacements for our commissioners that are vacating their positions at that meeting. So any comments on next scheduled meeting? Any suggestions, additions, as possible topics they'd like? Very well. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record, I motion we adjourn.
Very good.
Commissioner Giroux will second that.
Commissioner Giroux seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well, motion carries. We're adjourned at 10:40 hours. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time and effort.
I guess I'm freaking confused.